Hello, this is Max Drake. I'd like to talk about this app. I've just done a video on Honeycode table and an overview and API and linking to external stuff. Unfortunately, you've got to be on the pro plan about that. Today, I just really want to go into the first part of actually building this timesheet app and some of the logic and the way that it's used. The first time that I did it, and I had several cracks at this, I was getting a whole load of rubbish, and if you see here, there's a whole load of mess and nothing's particularly consistent at all. So that's a bit of an issue with that. So I did try doing it. I got some of the things working, some of the other things didn't work, but I ended up with a bit of a mess. And I did this on a number of occasions. So if we actually looked at the spreadsheets, actually this is the easy one, so that's one that's actually later than the one that I've done. Some of my earlier ones, you look at the mess inside here, I was getting great stuff working for a while, and then it just crashed and burned. So that wasn't very nice at all. So and then I was playing with a lot of the messing around of formulas and things. So at this point in time, I've got to the point where I've got reasonably clean data coming in through the whole of the row. Now the logic is that I can pull down, I can choose a project name, so I can come down here and I select whichever project that I'm actually working on. So once I've got the project name, one of the things with this is using a row link. Now if you've got a row link, what it does is it gives you access to all of the data in that row. So you can actually get the name, the code, the client, you can get all of that information once you've just got one thing. So I've just got that in there. So what I can actually just do in there is just go is equal to project name. Oh no, it's not doing something there. Got a bracket in there, that's why, and a del in there, and it comes through with the code through there. If I just copy and paste that into the next one there, I can actually just go and call that client. It's got these square brackety things that I find a bit easy, so it's bringing that data through. So I can do that. So all I'm actually doing is that's just doing a spreadsheet type operation. Is just say looking there, do a lookup on the other one, and that's the power of the Honeycode link. So what's happened through there, and I will be doing it anyway, is inside the formats is that I'm formatting that column as a row link and I'm associating it with another table. So I'm then linking that table across, and because I've linked one row, that one cell on that table, everything else in that row I've got access to in this table here. So that's very powerful. So I'm not just linking the one column, I'm linking the whole lot. Now I'm not necessarily using it, so I don't know if there's extra burden by doing that, but that's a Honeycode process that it's using, the method that it's doing through there. So let's just go back to the beginning. Now I've just got to go in and I want one of these noisy sheet things. No, I can't do that. Sorry. I'll just do that one there. So if I go into here, I decided that I'd create a workbook and I'd try importing a CSV file. Now, when you import a CSV file, here I've just got the glide. Here I've just got an Excel spreadsheet, and I've just saved it as a CSV, and I've just put the columns. I know what columns I actually want to use, and I've just put them in there. So I can actually just go in there, save that as a CSV, come into here, go import CSV file, and it imported it in through here. So it's made the back end spreadsheet. So that's all it's done, is it's made that. Now it hasn't even added any columns in. Now I've gone through and I've added in and I've just created another table, and you can do that. Here's another thing, is you can actually have an import of a CSV file again. So if you've got all the table headers, as you know how the tables are going to link together, you can actually build that back. I actually built a blank table and I actually just populated it with this pro one here. So I've got name, code and client. Again, this would come extra rows and things like that. Now one of the things with that other one is because when we associate this, if I added another row and I actually put client email, let's just put email, I can actually have we just add an email into those ones there. We can now add that because we've got access to the row. If we do a row link with this, we've got access to this through here as well. I'm just going to copy and paste that down for who cares. So we just come through there. So when we come back to our original table, we have nothing in there at all. Now I'm going to do some formatting at this point in time. So this is actually straight from raw. The first thing I'm going to do is to select that one, and I'm going to format that as a row link. And I'm going to select the source, it's a table, and I'm going to select the table, which is the pro sheet through there. That's all. Do not add anything in here. I tried doing that and it caused me grief. So we do the apply through there. So that's the first thing there. Now I've got access through into that particular point. Now the date, I want to format as a date. So I'm going to go into the format here. And this is what you can actually do through here. Is you can do some basic formatting and it sort of works. And so I'm going to look at mine to look like that. Make sure you hit apply. In fact, I better go back to that one there. And did I apply that? I don't know if I did or not. No, I didn't. You see, I forgot that, and that's one of the things I'm always getting. Oh, now we've got the pro. Now we can actually go apply. So that's actually applied through that. So the start one, I'm actually going to go format that. I just need to do these formatting. It's a bit not particularly educational, but never mind. You can speed up through this bit. We're going to make that time, and we're going to make it just a 24-hour number, because that allows us to do additions and subtractions and stuff later on. And so we don't want that 3 p.m, we want the 15:04 or whatever, and we only want it into minutes. Now the lunch one I actually want as a basic number. So I want it as a number, and I just want it to 2 decimal places, so that's fine by me, because I might have a number like I've taken an hour and a quarter lunch or something like that. So I want that as a number, 2 decimal places, apply, and I've got the totals as well that I want as a number, and apply. And the reason I'm doing those separately, I did explain in a different video. So now I've done that basic formatting there. Now I'm going to go through. Now I'm going to make an app and using the building wizard. So it's got all of those things there. It's going to say start through there, and I'm just going to say make the t-shirt is what I've called it there, and it's coming on through, and it'll add certain columns. Now it'll only add a limited amount of columns because of the fact that it's assuming that if the columns are spread across ways, your 5 columns most probably is too much for a mobile app, but that's fine. We don't care. We want the person, and we'll just put project code in this time. We won't bother with project things and stuff there, and we'll go again. I think on the previous one I noted you can either have this up or you can have it vertically as stacked this way, so they will come down if they go there. I'm actually going to keep it as column, and then that's gone and frozen on me. You can also add the other 2 screens, which I will do at this point in time. So we're going back to column, we're going to keep that there, and we're going to go next. Then it's going to build all, so it's going to build that screen, and it says this is what I've got on my second screen. So it's basically got all of the items that you've got on that, and then we're going to go on to the last screen that's going to give you all of the columns through for this one here, and we'll keep all of those. Now you see it's done a date format, or something hasn't come through on that, and what hasn't come through is that I haven't got the pick list, so I can't actually select. So I'm actually going to go and close out of this, because I'm just going to confirm through there, and I'm going to add a row, and now maybe I've got to do that. So let's just go into the formatting through there, row link, enable pick list, select a table, and select, I thought we did do that, so there. So now we have a pick list through there, and let's go and pick something just for the hell of it. So we've got something picked through there. So we will now just go through that operation there again. So we're just going to take that one and delete it because it's broken. Doesn't do what we want. And we're going to start all over again. Use an app wizard and we'll go through and we'll do the sheet. It's when you break things or do it completely wrong that it's embarrassing, but that's when you actually get the real learning done. So again, with these ones here, we actually add the extra columns through that I want to see, and we want the person through there, and project code we're going to add. We're going to the next one. That should have everything that we now have through there, person all the way through, and the project name at the best top. Great. And the next one along, we've got person and we've got project name, so that's fantastic. So we can go apply now. Now this is very important. We will now do this. We're not really interested in that bit of it. So what I need to do at this point in time is go into, I'll go back into that one there, and I'll go into bugger. No, that hasn't happened. Don't know what that is. I'll go into there. This is annoying. I'm just going to duplicate that tab because I like the spreadsheet and I like that one, and then I want to go into my app now, which I can rename. So as you see, it's a bit of a mess, and it's going to end up being a bit messy on the other one, but that's not what this is about. This is about how those are all functioning. So this one is show the data. This one here at this point in time, the second one, I'm going to go hit app navigation straight away and just drag those other two up there. I think they should start off with all of them on app navigation, and then you can delete them when you want to rather than the other way around. So we'll just go into the last one. Now this is quite important that we need to go through quite slowly. So that's got all of that bit of stuff in there, and that's got that, and we know what it looks like because that's what it looks like. If we got the details, that's what it looks like. The form, that's what we look like. Now in the form, we can actually do a selection, ABC. We can do something and check a date. And this date thing is actually quite nice. I do find this, they actually have the clock one on the Google, on the Androids, which is really handy to actually set your times, which I find quite convenient. So there we're going to start at 8 and we're going to finish at 3, and we're going to have a lunchtime, and we're going to have 1 hour or 1.25, and the subtotal we're going to leave, and we're going to leave that, and comments we're just going to put a little bit in, and the person we're going to who cares, project code and project client we're going to do done. We just want to push something in there just to test that some data's gone in. So data's gone in, so that's cool. So it's gone through and made another row, so we can actually blow that first row away if we want. Delete row. Right, back to the app. So this is the important, no, I want that, I want that can go away. That's what I want, and I want the third area. So this is where we do. Now we just step through here. If we click on here, we see this actually has a name. So this is a name, and it's called a variable. If we click on that date there, that is, the cell is called, now that's the data cell. That's the inner bit where we can put data. That is called date, and it's a variable. This one here is called start, and it's a variable. Cool. Etc, 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 going on through. Now in person, we want to actually set the formula is equal to that dollar, open brackets, sysuser. Now it's interesting, there's sysuser groups, I haven't tried that one yet. And then we're going to call that one there. So that's good. And the project code, we can actually enter a formula. This is equal to, now we got project name, so that's what that one there is called. Now project code here is equal to dollar, open brackets, B, project name, this is flipping brackets things, and then I think it's called code in the other table. And hopefully that should update. Now you see it's gone blue through there, so that's happy. Actually, I should go back to that one again. I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to go and put in that formula into there, and then put client. Now you see that's looking up that, and it finds the right thing. So if I go into there, no, it doesn't let me do that. So this is looking up that cell. So that's what it's looking up. It's looking up that variable and finding that. So when we look at the done button, now you see the person, I'm doing the lookup because that's saying I'm coming through that app. So it's reading my user data to actually say who that is. So if I now go into the done and I look at the actions, the automation say add a row to T-sheet. So it's going to create a new row when we press this action done button, and it's going to take the variable, that's the dollar and then the brackets and then the name of the variable, and push it onto that and as a value, not as a formula. And the same with date, put it into the date column as a value, etc., 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 and it goes all the way down there, and it's saying whatever you see in there, just chuck it into the spreadsheet. And that's all it's doing. So if you add another column or something into here, or you wanted a bit more information, you've got to make sure that it's there. Now this is the first sheet that you actually want to work on. So this is the one that's pushing your initial data into the stuff. And we're just putting these ones in here to check up on. In fact, we don't need these, and there is another method that we can do this, and we'll do that exercise later. So we're looking for a date, and we're looking for a start time, and we're looking for an end time. And we're looking for lunch and things, and those ones are formatted. Again, if we look at the end, on the display, it's displayed as time. So I can set that in here. So we don't need to set it in the spreadsheet. We can set it here. But if we set it in the spreadsheet, then it's set in the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet's set and formatted for that, just in case we want to do something else. So now we've got that there. So now we can actually say view app. Now, did I do that? I think I did, yeah. So now let's go and try it out. So we've got the thing. We're going to select an option. DEF, we're going to select a day, who cares? And we're going to select the start time. Start time. 7:30 a.m. End time. I just do them next to each other because it's the same sort of operation. And then lunch, we'll say 0.75. We took 3/4 of an hour. I always do it in decimal plans. Oh, now we didn't do something here. We've forgotten something. So I'm just going to go back to that app, and the subtotal is the data. Do we want subtotal? We can do subtotal two ways here, and in fact what we will do, we're going to take this out. We don't need this. This is going to do a calculation. So we don't actually need to input anything in there. We're going to automate that. So we're going to take this out, and we're going to take total out, because that's another Z. I actually want total in there for because we might actually add in a total. So that's what I want. The subtotal should automatically do a calculation through here. So it takes the end, subtracts the start time from the end time, and then subtracts the lunch time, and then that will give the subtotal. And then the total is equal to the subtotal, and then the total. No, we can just what do we want that to be? The total is equal to that's just, I'll leave that there, right? There's other methods I do want to do. No, that's, yeah, we'll leave that. I'll think about that. A couple of methods you can do that way of thinking. I did actually have a different solution to that. So anyway, we have the app now. So we go and add a form through there. So we select an option, the last one there. We select a date. We select a couple of times, an early one and later one. And we select a lunch hour of 1.25. And we don't bother with the total. Comments is blah. The person is that, and all of those ones are filled in, so we can go push that in. So now let's go and have a look at our sheet. So now we've got that information coming through there. Now that subtotal, since we're not pushing anything in there, we can actually put a formula in there. Now we can actually say that, so there's nothing's going to overwrite that because we're not pushing anything in there. So we can actually say that is equal to end minus start minus that lunch. And we can actually just, since we've got that formula there, this is, I'm just an example, although it's totally wrong, I can go into there and I can format that and I can actually just go, let's just make that equal to that. Now, it's wrong. Doesn't matter, don't worry. But what I actually want to highlight here is delete that row, is that I actually want to go through into that app again and I want to add another one. So let's just add another row of something and we're going to get another date, who cares, and 1:30, 2:30. We're not going to have any lunch and we're just going to done. So we've got a project, we've got a thing, and it's come through. And that's errored there. That's interesting. So that formula should have come down, but it didn't. Doesn't matter. So normally I've usually got the total is equal to the subtotal. So the logic is that that's that, and the total is that. So we just drag that down. And if I drag that down, so there. So at this point in time, it's doing that. We'll work that out later. So we've got those ones coming down, but that's reading something. So if I'm going from 15, which is 3 minus 8, so 8, 9, 8 to 12 is 4, plus 3 is 7, minus 1 1/4, it's not minus 0.96. So, aha. Generally, though, we've got the input in there. So now we've actually got an issue about calculating the right time. So what we'll actually do, and I actually explained this in my main post. Oh, sorry. So I better just stop here a minute. I just want to do a bit of a plug. I've decided to go for a Patreon site. I've got over 124 videos, 125 now, videos all up there that I've just posted for free and put in any extra resources or information I've just put down below the video. There's a couple of things I actually want to do. I want to see if I can get, I'd like to get to be able to get into the pricing so that I can actually get a plus account in here so that I can actually start playing with the APIs inside Honeycode. So I actually think I could make some quite nice videos that will be helpful to people. And so if you're interested in that, please support me from that point of view. The other thing that I'd like some money for is I have had a very lovely dog companion, and he died last year, and I'm up to the point now where I'd actually like to have another dog, and so I can't afford, I'm on a bit of a stipend, and so I'd need some money to be able to, one, purchase a nice dog. You know, it wouldn't be a particularly expensive one because this one's a Hunter-Way, a New Zealand farm dog, but just for medical opinions, for actual registration and for vet stuff and for feeding and stuff. So I would really appreciate your support. So that's my little push on that. inside the Patreon, there's $1.50 US per month plus GST, and GST is New Zealand tax like that, and it's at 15%. And the early birds is $1.50 at the moment. It will be going up to $2 plus GST, and they get patron recognition on the next one, and they get access to the polls so that I can get some feedback as to what they would actually like to see in this. There's a $3 per month plus GST, and this is an early birds all access for the patrons, and this offers the same as the other tier, plus you actually has as a patron only access to articles. So I've got articles, this one here, I've got extra things. So normally when I'm actually testing something out, I've usually got a post open and I start writing about it at the same time. So if I come across something problematic, I make a screenshot and make a note about the issues that I come across, or if I've linked to I find a resource, I'll link to it so that it's more accessible, so the next time I come to do it, I've got that information there. So that I'm sharing with people who are on the $3 tier. Now again, on the post there's I'm normally into free or low cost productivity tools just in the Windows environment, and I've done some Revit stuff, I've done some facility management, asset management stuff with mapping and databases and things, and I do a bit of JavaScript programming and websiting and stuff and things. So I'm sort of a jack of all trades and useless at all of them. So that's where I'm coming from, and I'd like people to support me that, because I'm hoping for the $3 a month, which will be going up to $5 shortly, to be able to give you some advance linkages, or maybe everybody who's a patron, an early access to videos, maybe 2 or 3 days earlier than everybody else that it goes public, just so that you have an opportunity to maybe get an extra bit of leverage on it. Maybe it's useful to you, maybe it's not, maybe that's not of any relevance to you at all. Now again, I've kept the tiers quite low here because from my websites and the work that I've done, and there is about 320 posts on my main site there. I get people from all around the world. There are mainly a main area from English-speaking countries, but there's stuff from all around the world. A lot from South America, a lot from Asia, quite a few from Africa and things like that. So I didn't want to pitch anything too high. I wanted people to actually, maybe contribute a little bit, but I didn't want to make it particularly onerous. So that's why I pitched it at this level. And to a certain extent, in my background myself, I'm a registered architect in New Zealand, but it's not particularly I'm sort of bored with it in a way. And building services designer, I've been an educator, I've been an aid worker, and I see a lot of people, and everybody has the same issues and they struggle, and I see a lot of people using my sites because it's trying to use free apps and things like that, and it's just a way of helping them out. But in return, I wouldn't mind a little bit of something. I put a lot of videos out there. I'd like to feel as if I could get some acknowledgement for the efforts that I do put into it, and my presentation or whatever seems to be acceptable by people because they're used quite a lot. Anyway, that's my little pitch on that. So back to being disruptive again. So again, those videos will only access from those people on those tiers, by the way. So coming back to my spreadsheet at this point in time, how do I get this? So this is set up as a time. So it has hours, minutes, and in fact I've stopped seconds, so I've just made these hours and minutes, although you can see the seconds through there, but I'm only given the options of actually getting times at hours and minutes. This one is just a number at 2 decimal places. This is a number at 2 decimal places. So how do I calculate this? Well, what we can do is, and again, for the people who are the patrons who can get access to the web post, I've actually gone into quite a lot of detail of how to do this. For the ones who isn't, I'll give you a hint and you just have to take it, and suddenly thinking, well, for that extra little bit of money, I can get so much more out of it. But there is some of the functions that are actually in Excel and things like that. So because that's in hours and minutes, we can actually break that down. So what we can do is we can actually go, this is equal to hours. So you see the hour function comes up, and then it says what time, so we can get the end time there. So that has now told us what that is. So it's the 15 hours. So we can actually say minus, so, no, sorry, I'm actually just going to go into here, and I'm just going to go is equal to hour, open brackets and close brackets again, and then, did it do that? No, it didn't. Oh, bugger you. And then we're going to go into there, and then we go and select, get away, start time there. Ah, okay then. Start, and then I've got to do the close brackets through there, and it do the start then there. So I could go, this is equal to n minus start hours, and then I could make another 2 columns, and then I could go equals minute, and then go end, and get the number of minutes in the end. So there's 15 there. Let's just add a few minutes onto that just to make it workable. So we go 30, and then I could do the minutes for the thing, and then I could subtract the hours and do something there. But what I could actually do in a way is that you just bring it all down to the lowest common denominator. So what I can do is that I'd convert the hours and multiply it by 60 to get minutes. Then I'd add the end hours and the end minutes together. And then I'd do the same with the start hours and the start minutes. And then I'd subtract one from the other. Then I'd have the number of minutes difference between the start and the finish. Then I've got the lunch, which I've got in hours and fractions of an hour. So I can actually multiply that by 60 as well. So that would give me the number of minutes in those. So if I actually just did that one there, that would be equal to lunch times 60. So I have the number of lunch times 60. So once I've got all of those all together, I can actually subtract the end minus the start, minus the lunch, and then I get my subtotal. And then I should actually have it correct because it's all rounded into minutes, or therefore I can actually then divide it by 60 to bring it back into hours and fractional hours. And then once I've got it there, I can actually do it. Now, normally I actually have the subtotal and then I make the total the same, because sometimes I would actually go and fill in the start, end and lunch time because I might be working all day on a project. Or sometimes I'm actually only working a couple of hours on each individual project, so I don't bother filling in any of this and I just put in a couple of hours. So I've done 2 hours of my day that I was working on this particular project, and then another 4 hours on this one, and then another 2 hours on another one. So that's the scrappy days when you're actually cleaning things through. So that's how all of that works. So I'm not giving you the solution through there. You can work it out yourself. But for those who are in the upper early bird all access patron, they get all that information straight away. So that charged them through. So the other thing that I was hoping, and I don't know what to do about that, is if I get enough patronage, I'd definitely be going through to pay about the Honeycode APIs. And that I think would be quite an interesting thing to start playing with, and I wouldn't mind some feedback later on, and I'll put a poll through there about what things they'd like to see linkages through or operations through to actually do that, if they're interested in me doing some more Honeycode apps type things. And then if that is the case, since I'm linking to, I'm actually building the app, I would actually be doing the videos with the app, but I could also link that app through to other people so that they can actually share, since I'm allowed my 20 people on the tier to actually do that. So there may be an opportunity there to actually have a raffle or some way of actually seeing if people as a prize can get something. So thoughts on that would be appreciated. So I hope that's been of interest to you. This has been learning. So at this point in time, I've got this app to this point. So let's just refresh what has actually happened through here. I've been able to get clean data all the way through here. Now, the other thing through here, the project code and the thing, I've actually done that from the interface. I'm just going to delete this one here. delete table column. Now what I can do, instead of actually having that information, this project code and project client on the interface, since we're not actually adding anything in there, since it's automatically picked up through this point here, since that is pointing to that particular cell to make that happen. Another method of doing this is to actually just go equals that and then just put code. And it comes through there. So in fact, there's certain things through there that I don't actually need to do. I don't need to go through the interface of actually putting things on there. They automatically come through. At this point in time, we're showing the name of the person coming through, but we don't need to because we know that it's automatically going to come through. We're only showing this at this point in time on the sheet through here, just because we're testing to see that it actually works. And the interesting thing with that is that I've got two different accounts. Oh no, I haven't. It's not showing me those. Yes, I've got two different accounts based with the same name. So for some unknown reason, I've allowed either of them. But since they've both got the same first and last name, I should blow that other account away and start it again and do that. That was just another little comment I just wanted to make about the API, and which I said in the previous one with the API. You end up with a Honeycode is a separate logging in, and it's a separate account to the AWS account. So you'd need another account, which you can get for free for doing that one there. So they're two separate accounts, and I don't know how the interlinking works across there, or somehow you can link one account to another, most probably through the dashboard that they actually have. So that brings us through. Now we've got this to a point where I just want to do an overview on this as to what the hell we've got. So at this point in time, we've got user data coming in. We can do a calculation. We can get the total hours. We can get all of the people. This app can be distributed to 19 other people, and all of those people can put their timesheet in. Now, there is a methodology where you can actually say, just put their data through onto their own specific sheets, so that you can say when you log in, instead of coming in onto this sheet, this is maybe T-sheet Max, or there's T-sheet Fred, or there's T-sheet George, or something like that. So that's one way of doing it, but it's usually not the way that you do it. You'd actually just fill everything out. But basically then, at this point in time, we actually have the overview app. So this overview app is for anybody, and anybody can see everybody else's stuff. So the first thing, where we can filter by a number of ways. So this is the next part of the exploration of the app as to what we can do. One, we can just filter by just who the user is. So the user only has the app that sees him or her data. Next, you actually want to see your timesheet stuff is usually in chunks. It's weekly, monthly, whatever. There's a billing cycle that people have, and they need that information through there. So you can actually, there's also another level of filtering that you most probably need to do on a date, so that you can do a sort of a chunk, or you've set the start and the end date, or there's a way of bunching it up. So that's another thing to be able to think of. And maybe that's linking to another column that actually brackets and filters to a certain thing. The other one is by project, cumulative adding up. So what you can actually say is, if there's stuff on that one, we can add extra stuff through here. And I think that was something that I was just going to make the point through there. Like in the Pro one there, suddenly we added an extra column through there. So we could also add on the T-sheets through there, is that we can actually say, oh, look, we actually want to get some more information through here. And instead of that one, we actually want to bring through the email. So even late in the piece, we can actually pull extra information on, which we may want to do with our projects to bring through onto this particular line of data. So that's another thing that we can do there. So we want to do some filtering by one, and so we can most probably have an overview app that somebody's looking them overview. So maybe whoever's in charge of accounts or something, they can look at whatever's actually happening that month coming through. You then want to break down the costs by projects so that you've got an indicative thing of to whether you're working inside a budget or whether how much time's been allocated to a project. I don't know if there's an overall thing. Maybe you could actually set those budgets somewhere and then do a comparison of the rolling tick over as to how many hours. And then, so that would be another thing that possibly you could filter by. You could actually have another pull down list like a project, but for depending on your function. Like if you're doing engineering work, that would actually have one function, but then you might do a day of administration. So if you're doing the administration or something like that, you can't maybe not be charging out or cannot be billed out at 2.5 or 3 times multiplier of what your actual rate is. You might only be charging out at 2 times or 1.5 times the multiplier or something like that. So even if it's the same person, on a certain, to actually make sure that they won the bid, they said, well, there's this much engineering, but there's this much administration that we do, and I'm quite happy to kind of we'll take a lower hit on that to allow that to do. So you can filter out, or maybe you're charging more for a preliminary part of the design and less for the develop design or the construction phase or the documentation phase of the project or supervision. So again, you can actually have a further filtering down through all of those based on another table that you can come through, and you can do a pick list through here from another table that does certain things. And with those other tables, you might have a multiplier. So that multiplier might suddenly saying, well, if I'm actually operating in this stage, I'm acting as an engineer or an architect, I'm charged out at $250 an hour. Whereas if I'm out as a administration clerk or something like that, they've got another multiplier. So you can actually have a running total of your total budget of how much you've actually used out. So that could be done by, you could have worked that out by, we've allowed so many hours, or we could say we've got an overall budget of this so that we can see where they allocate in there. So this is just the beginning at the moment of basically we're getting data, we're putting it in, and we got it into a table and based on the people's hours and things like that. The other thing that you can do as well with this is that because we got the automations, we can actually say, well, we want timesheets in every week so that we can get our billings out to our clients. So this is assuming that something like the billing that I'm thinking about here is for a consulting firm that bills by hour. So we're designing buildings and we charge you out based on an hourly rate or something like that. So in which case you can do something like with an automation, you can say, well, we want your timesheets all filled out by Friday. We can send you a notification to everybody on the Wednesday and on the Thursday that you must have your timesheets complete by Monday morning or whenever you actually do them, so that you can keep tight in your billing cycle. And if those things are not done, then you can actually just suddenly say, well, you don't get paid until the next billing cycle. They'll actually make them do certain things. The other things that you can do in your comments, again through here, you can actually have a pull down, so you can actually say, you will actually have your own comments of maybe you're saying, well, this is what I actually did on this particular project, or I was doing the engineering for the little knuckle or the moment resisting beam or something like that, or the foundations, or a particular area that you're actually just focusing on. So you can see if you're timing your budget right. But then again, you might also want to pull down for a preliminary or whatever stage of the project's at. So this is the next part of the thing. So they're just grabbing the initial data is fine. Now, how do we want to refine that data as to how it's realistically used? Now, you see how we're doing all these calculations all the way through here just to do the time. We can most probably do that in the one cell through there. Now, again, if you saw, we didn't put any input in for the person, but we were able to get the variable out. So we can actually have that subtotal. We can put a formula inside the subtotal in here, so we can actually have the subtotal. At the moment we've got the total, we blew out the subtotal. We can actually have the subtotal in here, in the through at this point here, so we can add that one back in again and do it. And that's another thing. I've just blown out one of those things through there. But in fact, if we look in the actions, I think in the automations, the subtotal's still sitting in there. Now it doesn't exist, but it's still in this part of the app. Now we can say we built that app, we've got it, and the app looks bloody ugly that way around. It's all compressing too much, especially on the mobile. Since you've set up most of it now, you can actually just go back and build another app and build exactly the same app, but just change those configurations or add those different things. So I've tried it out by trying to put the formula in here. That didn't work. I've got the wrong formula. I know roughly how I can build the formula that I actually need, but it's not in here, and it doesn't work in this point in time. We've actually found that when we put it through into here, something bad happens. We suddenly get an error. When we come through, we get an error through the thing here. So we've got to take that back and put it into this screen through here. So we've got to put that back in again. So we just rebuild another app and just blow that other one away. So it's very easy to do those refinements. And also keeping the older, earlier versions just to see what works and what didn't work, and to see that we got the right value. Like this actually, this is coming through as the values and stuff, so that's working fine, and all of these are working fine. So doing a lot of that setup where instead of each of these ones through here, you've got to come into that one and then select through here and then display as all of this through here. That's easier to do on the actual timesheet through here itself. You're just grabbing a column and doing it rather than each cell. So because when you're doing it there, that's actually happening on each column. So if I just go back into there and go into that one there, and I look at the date through to there, you see it's actually, no, isn't that interesting? It's actually not formatted correctly. It's just formatted as auto. So it comes through. And I suppose it's formatted as auto because it's actually formatted. The configuration is actually on this one here. So this is where it's pushing the data in. Sorry, on this last one through. Oh, not that one. This one here. This is where it's pushing the thing. So as long as it's configured there correctly, it'll work on the other ones. So just be aware. And again, that was something that took me a little while, of the fact that I need to, with this one here, I needed to link to this data cell. That took me a long while to figure out as well. So it was a bit of a pain point through there. So those are my learnings on that one, and it's we can change the titles through here and give an extra bit of blurb later on. So the next one, I'll take the timesheet through to the next level and explore a couple of different variations. As I said, it can go in a number of different ways, and I might play with some of those ways to see if there's a method of using spreadsheets. Because again, if we've got the opportunity of using this as a spreadsheet, doing some basic calculations, doing something like a rolling sum to keep the additions on there would be a handy thing to do. And maybe that could be done on a different sheet, so that at a certain fixed point you actually have a time that you could do. And in the point of, if you're linking with an API, you can just bring back from that's collated all the amount of hours that have actually been put on a certain project, and that can be updated on a regular basis. So at this point in time, I hope that's been of interest to you. Please consider supporting me on here. That would be nice. And for the people on the higher membership, you've got access to a lot of the linkages and things that on here that may be of use to you. Thank you very much for watching. Thumbs up, or else